Thank you. I'm Greg Skalka of the Under the Computer Hood User Group in San Diego, California. Welcome to everyone viewing. I'm going to be presenting today on your laptop's midlife crisis, how to help it cope. This is part 2, upgrading your laptop's hard drive. I presented part 1, adding RAM to your laptop, at the last APCUG VTC, and you can view that recorded presentation on the APCUG website. Now, your laptop, if you're going to take care of it, could likely run for 10 years with no problems. So its equivalency, like the equivalency of dog years to human years, is maybe a 10 to 1. So when you're talking about a 9-year-old laptop, that's kind of like a 90-year-old. In its first couple of years, when it's in its 20s or so, it's got its greatest capabilities. It's the fastest. It seems to be operating the best, has the most storage space, has the most current things. But as it gets older, like we all do, and gets into its 4th or 5th year, it starts slowing down. It can't remember things as well. It doesn't have as much room for remembering things. And maybe it doesn't have all the capabilities that younger models have. So it may go into a midlife crisis like we might. But it can't buy itself a red sports car. You've got to help it to deal with that. And we're going to talk about that in today's presentation. No one wants to be abandoned in their midlife years and written off. Neither does your laptop. As an example, I bought 2 Fujitsu laptops about 4 to 5 years ago now. I bought one for my wife with a 15.6-inch display because she wanted a bigger display, Intel i3 processor. And not too long after that, I bought myself a new laptop with a 14-inch display and a little more powerful i5 processor. Now, these weren't the most expensive laptops available when I bought them, nor were they the cheapest. I did buy them on sale, so I was constrained to the particulars of the sale offer in terms of what was available, what size hard drive or RAM that was in it. But they were moderately priced laptops, and I thought a good value at the time. Both of them had 500 gigabyte hard drives, which was moderate at the time, although larger 1 terabyte drives were available. They had 2 gig of RAM, which wasn't fully filling up what its capabilities were, but that kept the price of the original purchase down. They had USB 2, didn't have USB 3. That wasn't that common in laptops at the time. But they did both have HDMI output port for video, which is now fairly common in laptops. Gigabit LAN and good wireless capability, DVD-RW drive, and came with Windows 7. So these 2 laptops, they're useful life trade-offs. Now they're around 4 to 5 years old. What have they got going for them? Well, they're still fairly fast. They're slowing down a little bit, but are still pretty functional. They have most current interfaces that I would want to have. It'd be nice to have USB 3, but they do have HDMI and they do have fast enough networking. They have a good operating system in Windows 7. Windows 7 will be supported by Microsoft for security updates at least until 2020, another 4 years. And that may get extended like they did for Windows XP as well, since Windows 7 is still, despite Microsoft's efforts at Windows 10, still the most popular operating system out there. But I also do have the option at this point to upgrade to Windows 10 and extend its life even more. And these laptops appear to be reliable. I've had them for, as I said, 4 to 5 years, and they've had no issues. Nothing's broken. They all, appear to be fairly reliable, but I do take care of them fairly well. What do they lack at their midlife point now? Well, they did lack more RAM. That would be a benefit in terms of operation. But as the presentation that you could view on the APCUG website from the last VTC will show, I did add more RAM to them. They could have a larger hard drive at this point. 500 gigs is not that much when you start adding in more programs and more files, and that it'd be beneficial to have a larger hard drive. I could also speed up the booting by putting in a solid-state drive, which would be very nice. They don't have USB 3, but that's a little harder to add. They don't have a Blu-ray drive either, which would be nice to be able to view Blu-ray movies. So the most popular laptop upgrades that you might consider for your laptops in a midlife situation are the same as mine. More memory, larger hard drive, perhaps a solid-state drive. These are all fairly relatively easy things to do. In most cases, you can easily access those from access doors on the bottom of your laptop. If you can't get to them, then it's much tougher or maybe not possible. But those are fairly easy things to change on your laptop. Add more memory or change your hard drive. Another thing that would be desirable, be faster interfaces. Perhaps add USB 3, gigabit Ethernet, 802.11 wireless if you don't have it. These can be more difficult, although you could perhaps through a USB dongle add faster wired or wireless internet. USB 3 is a lot tougher to do. HDMI output, if you don't have it, would be nice, but you do have to have a laptop that has the capability to add that, and that's not that common. Blu-ray drive is a fairly easy thing to do as well, because you can go purchase an external USB Blu-ray drive. And I've put new battery here with an asterisk under upgrades. It's not really an upgrade, but it can add life to your computer, your laptop as well, as if you use your battery a lot to run off the battery power, constant charge and discharge cycles will start wearing your battery out, and it won't hold a charge as well. Just going online and finding, there's easy to find new batteries for your laptop and changing your battery, or even perhaps buying a battery with larger capacity than the one that your laptop originally came with could add new life as well. So why would you want to upgrade your hard drive in this laptop? Well, you want to increase the storage space. As you do Windows updates, it keeps adding more and more Windows stuff to your hard drive, takes up more and more space. As you add more data, have more applications you want to run, that takes up more space. So the limited space that you had on the laptop originally starts decreasing. It would be nice to have more space. You might also be able to speed up your laptop by upgrading your hard drive, even if it's only a magnetic drive, which is typically what any computer that you would have bought, any laptop you would have bought in the last 3 or 4 years would be a magnetic platter hard drive. If you get one with a higher rotational speed, then that will speed up its access time as well. If you had one that was a 5400 RPM drive and then upgraded it to a 7200 RPM drive, that will cut down the access time, because the part of the access time is how long it takes for the data that you're trying to get to rotate underneath of the read-write head. If at the moment the processor wants some information, it happens to have just passed the read-write head, it's got to wait till that location rotates all the way around again to be under the read-write head. And at higher RPM, that will take less time. The other thing you might benefit from is a faster electrical interface. If your laptop can support that, you might be able to have faster access that way. But the best way to get a faster hard drive interface, hard drive operation, is to change to a solid state drive. These are semiconductor based rather than a magnetized platter based, and they have much faster access time, and their access time is the same for all locations, fast. They're not dependent on something rotating, and they have faster electrical interfaces. The types of hard drive interfaces that you're going to see on your laptop's hard drives are either going to be parallel ATA or serial ATA, or SATA as it's sometimes called. If your laptop has the parallel ATA interface, it's older technology, and I would recommend you just get a new hard drive or new laptop at this point, because you're not going to be able to find replacement drives for parallel ATA as easily anymore, if at all. You can tell this type of hard drive because they use pins, connector pins on the drive to connect the serial ATA drive, which if you've bought a laptop in the last 5 years, your hard drive is undoubtedly serial ATA, uses a serial high-speed interface. It's the same connectorization for both the 2.5-inch smaller drive that you would have in your laptop and the 3.5-inch serial ATA drives you might have in your desktop machine. These use copper fingers or gold-plated copper fingers on the connector to make the connection rather than pins, and that's the way you can tell. You'll see that on the video you'll see here after my slide presentation as to what those look like. There are two different SATA interface speeds for the electrical interface between the hard drive and your laptop. The original SATA revision 2 specified a maximum of 3 gigabit per second transfer rate between the drive and the computer. That's probably what you'll have in a laptop that's 3 to 5 years old, unless you paid a premium price at the time. Newer SATA revision 3 interfaces can support up to 6 gigabits per second, so much faster transfer. There's also an even faster, newer revision for SATA, which is 16 gigabits per second, but it's not as common. If you go look at hard drives now, you'll find that most are compatible with SATA revision 3. There are still some SATA revision 2 drives out there. But the good news is that even if you have SATA revision 2 capability in your laptop and that's all you have, the revision 3 6 gigabit per second drives that are most of what's available out there are backwards compatible with the revision 2 interface, so that you can buy them and use them with your older laptop and it'll be just fine, but you'll only be running at the 3 gigabit per second rate. So the types of upgrade drives you could select to help your laptop out of its midlife crisis are these three. The magnetic media hard drive, hard disk drive, the same type that you've undoubtedly got in your laptop right now. It's based on a rotating magnetic platter which stores the information as little magnetic domains on that platter. It's slower relative access because it relies on the rotational spin of that drive and moving the head around to access that information, but they're very large capacity and have a low cost per gigabyte at this point in time. Another option is the solid state drive, which is SSD. It's based on semiconductor memory chips rather than a rotating magnetic platter. So it's got fast access. It's as fast for any location as any other location. But because they're a higher cost per gigabyte for this semiconductor memory. They manufacture them, make them for consumers in smaller capacities so that they're more affordable. The maximum sizes for magnetic media hard drive are in the 6 terabyte range. They aren't even available for solid state drive because they'd be prohibitively expensive. Because they're expensive, a third option has become available in the last few years. It's called the solid state hybrid drive or hybrid drive. It combines both a magnetic platter and some flash memory in the same part. They put some additional flash memory on the hard drive controller card. So this has the advantage of a large capacity of a magnetic platter drive with the faster access of solid-state semiconductor flash memory at a moderate cost. It set up with algorithms on the controller card to use that flash memory as a cache memory for the hard drive so that it's putting the most frequently accessed data or as it takes large blocks of data off of the hard drive, puts it in the flash memory so that when it's getting more commonly accessed information out of that and speeding up a lot of the accesses that the hard drive would have. So magnetic media hard drives for your laptop are going to be a 2.5-inch laptop hard drive. This is different than the 3.5-inch ones you'd have for desktop, so you'll want to make sure you get 2.5-inch drive. They come now up to 6 terabytes in capacity. The 1 terabyte is still the typical size you're going to see. One reason for that is there's in BIOSes for laptops, probably any of the older laptops, the basic input-output system BIOS firmware in the laptop is only set up to accommodate laptop hard drives that are less than 2 terabytes. And you can potentially upgrade your BIOS to support larger ones, but as it sits right now, it probably will only handle up to 1.5 terabyte in capacity. But as they continue to make larger drives, you might consider that BIOS upgrade. They'll come in 2 different interface speeds, the 3 gigabit per second SATA interface or the 6 gigabit per SATA interface. And they come in 2 different rotational speeds, 5400 and 7200. They're made by only 3 different hard drive manufacturers these days. Fortunately, like a lot of things, manufacturers have consolidated, buying up each other. And so now you can get hard drives from Seagate, who bought up Maxtor and Samsung's drive business recently, and Western Digital, who bought up Hitachi's, and they sell their Hitachi ones under the HGST brand, but it's still Western Digital, and Toshiba. These magnetic media hard drives range in price from about $30, the very cheapest, smallest ones you can buy, to $250 for the largest. But a 1 terabyte drive can be had for around $50 at this point. Now, these magnetic drives have large capacity. They're based on an older, reliable technology, making them for years and years and years, and they keep making them larger and larger, but they're still very reliable. They have good data retention, and they're low cost at this point. But they are mechanical systems, and so they're subject to shock if you drop them, bearing failures. I don't like any more than any other electronics to be overheated and can have other failures, but all in all, they are a very reliable, proven system. Solid-state drives are only available in almost all cases as a 2.5-inch solid-state drive, so they could be used in laptops and with adapters in desktops as well. They come up to about 2 terabytes in capacity at this point in time, with around 2 to 3 gigabytes as the typical size. Almost all of them have the faster 6 gigabit per second SATA interface. And these are made by semiconductor manufacturers, typically Samsung, Corsair, PNY, Patriot, and others make these solid-state hard drives in a form factor that looks like a 2.5-inch magnetic hard drive with the same connectorization, but meant to replace them as a solid-state drive. These can cost up to $400 with a 1 terabyte drive available for around $300. So that's considerably more than the equivalent sized magnetic type hard drive. So this is a type of based on flash memory technology. So it's new, but it's still fairly reliable, good retention, but it is a high cost per unit memory. It's limited in the number of writes that semiconductor memory can have per cell, but they run wear leveling algorithms on the controller cards for these memories so that it spreads the writing out over all the cells and gives you an overall lifetime for the hard drive that's still, within what you'd expect for a magnetic drive. Because there are no moving parts, they're quiet, they're shock resistant to dropping, but they can still suffer failures. They're not happy about being overheated and can have failures of the semiconductor, but they're still very reliable as well. Now, because the solid-state drives are rather expensive, the hard drive manufacturers, at least a couple of them, Seagate and Toshiba, came up with the concept of hybrid hard drives, which are also in the 2.5-inch form factor only. They sell 2 different sizes, 500 gigabyte and 1 terabyte capacity at this point. All the interfaces almost all of them are the faster 6 gigabit per second. And so these are a combination of a magnetic platter hard drive, which is what their specialty was in the first place anyway, combined with about 8 gigabytes typically of NAND flash memory on the controller card so that it can be used as a cache to speed up the accesses to the hard drive. These are typically in the $60 to $100 range, and you can get a 1 terabyte drive for around $80, considerably less expensive than a solid-state drive, just a little more than the equivalent-sized hard drive. So these are based on both the magnetic hard disk drive technology and the solid-state drive technology, best of both worlds. They have a large capacity by virtue of their magnetic platters, have good data retention, and are moderately priced. They are still mechanical devices, so they're susceptible to those still mechanical susceptibilities, shock and that. They have the same failure mechanisms as the regular hard disk drives and the solid-state drives, but they're still a reliable option as well. So if you're considering helping your laptop out by getting a different hard drive for it, how would you change that? Well, most laptops, in fact, all that I know of, can only accommodate 1 hard drive. Unlike your desktop, there isn't an option to put a second one in. So you're going to have to remove that one 2.5-inch SATA hard drive to put a new, larger, or solid-state one in its place. So one will be removed and the other will be added. And if you've got a lower speed SATA interface in your laptop presently, you can put either the Rev 2 or Rev 3 drive into it, whatever is available at a reasonable cost, but it will still run at 3 gigabits per second. If you happen to have a laptop that has the faster Rev 3 6 gigabit per second interface, you'll want to probably make sure you get a Rev 3 6 gigabit per second capable hard drive for it. Otherwise, you'll be downgrading your capability. Now, when I looked to upgrade my Fujitsu laptops to put a different hard drive into them, I looked at the manuals, but they didn't provide a lot of useful information. They said that the rotational speed was 5,400 RPM, so I realized, I could upgrade to 7,200 and have a little faster, but didn't say anything about the speed of the SATA interface. And per the specifications when I purchased it, I had a 500 gig hard drive in each, but I could verify that through the Windows control panel. I could look at it and see that, yes, it said I had a 465.76 gigabyte drive as recognized by Windows, so it had a 5 gigabyte drive. Now, to access the drive, you do require a little screwdriver, typically Phillips, and these are the steps you would take to do that. I won't go through them here because I'm going to be playing a video at the end of the slideshow that will illustrate this and give you a better idea of how to do this. One of the laptops shown here is a number of doors on the bottom. Remove the appropriate one, and it allows access to the hard drive. For the other one, the one that I use, there's even more doors on the bottom, and you pick the right one and access the hard drive in that way. But the video will illustrate this in more detail. So once I've decided that hard drive is what I want to do, what do I get? Well, if my laptop supported Rev 3, I'd want to get a Rev 3 if possible. If I want more storage space, then I want to get a hard disk drive. If I want faster access, I want a solid state drive. But I wanted both, so I compromised to get a hybrid drive. For one of the laptops, I purchased I had a 500 gig hard drive, and I wanted to have a 1 terabyte drive in it, but my boot time was over a minute, and I'd like that to be faster. I didn't have any information on the laptop's interface speed, so I couldn't really judge based on that. So I looked at hard drive, magnetic one for $50, solid state drive for $300 for the same size, but the hybrid drive was only $80. And per Seagate's little diagram here, I could expect that my boot time would be closer to a solid state drive than the magnetic drive if I used the hybrid drive. So that's the option I chose. For one of them, I bought a Toshiba drive, hybrid drive, which I think I got for about $80. And for the other one, I bought a Seagate, decided I'd try them. Both of them had the higher speed interface, SATA 3 interface, SATA Rev 3, so that I was covered in either case. And this one's about $73 on Amazon. So this is the upgrade process. You'll need to clean up, and it's a good idea since you're going to be transferring all of your data from one drive to another. Start out with cleanup process, backup, only the good things. Remove any excess files. Make sure your operating system's updated. You want to back up your hard drive with an image backup so that you have all of the formatting that can go onto this bare drive. So the backup program has to be able to make image backups, and you'll want to boot from a CD with that backup program, because once you've taken the old drive that you're using and put in a blank drive, you won't have any operating system or program or anything. It'll all have to be coming off of a CD. You remove and replace the drive, boot from the CD, and restore from the external USB hard drive that you backed up to originally. Then you can adjust the partition sizes and verify that your laptop boots correctly and boots faster. You will need some backup software. I use Acronis True Image, which makes nice image backups. The bootable version on the program CD is what I used. It supports external and external network drives so that I can use the USB drive to back it up, or use whatever you prefer to make an image backup. But as the most interesting computer user in the world might say, I don't always make image backups, but when I do, I prefer Acronis. Stay backed up, my friends. You also might consider some software to do disk management. Windows disk management built into Windows can perform some limited partition management, but Acronis Disk Director does a very nice job of adjusting your partitions, and you'll probably want to do that once you put your smaller drive information onto this larger drive. It also runs from its bootable CD. You also want to, before you do your change and after, verify your drive sizes and do error checking on the drive. Here's the process for changing the hard drive, but rather than go through this with you, I'm going to play this 18-minute video, which will illustrate exactly what the process is.
Hi, this is Greg Skalka with the Under the Computer Hood user group in San Diego, California. I'm going to be demonstrating how to change a hard drive in a laptop. I'm going to demonstrate this on two different laptops, a Fujitsu AH531, which I have right here, as well as a Fujitsu LH531. Both of these laptops have a 500 gigabyte hard drive, the drives that they came with new. Both of these laptops could use more storage space, and both don't boot the fastest. I could put a conventional hard drive into these. I could put a 1 terabyte in for fairly low cost, or I could look at putting a solid state drive or SSD into these laptops to speed up their boot process. But an SSD would be fairly expensive, especially if I wanted to increase the size over what I've got now, the 500 gigabyte. A compromise position would be to put in a hybrid drive. These are magnetic platter hard drives, which also have some solid-state flash memory in them to allow them to cache the information on the hard drive, and you get the best of both worlds, a large storage space and a faster boot time. I've purchased two different hybrid drives, a Toshiba 1 terabyte hybrid drive and a Seagate 1 terabyte hybrid drive. I'm going to be putting the Toshiba into one of the laptops and the Seagate into the other. Since one of the advantages of the hybrid drive is a faster boot time, I'm going to measure the boot time on both of these laptops before I make the change, and then measure it again after to see if it actually improved the situation. I'll let you all see how long it takes for this Fujitsu AH531 laptop to boot. I'm timing it from the time I press the power button to the time that my ESET Smart Security antivirus screen goes away on boot up. This is pretty darn slow, isn't it? Now from the time I press the start button to the time this screen goes away for ESET Smart Security is consistently about 1.5 minutes. The first step in changing the hard drive is to back up the data on the old hard drive, because this is the way we're going to transfer the data to the new blank drive. To be able to do this, you need to use a backup program that can create an image backup so that all the formatting information from the drive is retained. I'm going to use Acronis TrueImage, which does image backups. I'm going to make those backups onto an external USB hard drive. I'm going to boot the program off of its bootable CD, because when I get around to restoring this on a blank drive, I won't have an operating system or installed program on that blank drive. I'll have to use this bootable CD to run the program to restore off of the external drive back onto the new blank drive. But I'll be able to take all of the information off of the smaller old drive and put it onto the new bigger drive. I have a number of partitions on this hard drive, so to make it easier, I'm going to select in Acronis TrueImage all of the partitions at one time and make one image of all of them, so that makes it easier to transfer to the new drive. Once the hard drive has been backed up to the external USB drive, it's time to remove the old hard drive and put the new drive in. With the laptop turned upside down, you can see there are 2 removable panels on the bottom of the laptop in addition to the battery. There is a small panel here, and this is where the hard drive is located. There's also a large panel here where, if you remove it, you'll find you can access the memory and processor, heatsink, and other items on the motherboard. But this is the panel that we'll be concentrating on to remove the hard drive. We'll start off by removing the 2 screws that hold the panel in. Just requires a small Phillips screwdriver, a magnetic screwdriver like this one is useful to be able to pull the screws out. And then, prying at this point, you can remove the cover and expose the old hard drive. Now you'll notice that there's a plastic tab here. Hard drive appears to be in a little carrier, and so if you pull the tab, lift the hard drive, and then slowly wiggle it out, it will disengage from the connector, and there is the old hard drive. It's a Seagate 500 gig 2.5-inch drive, and as you can see, it's on a little carrier. We'll have to remove the hard drive from that carrier, put the new drive in, and plug it in the same way. As you can see, there's 4 screws, 1 on each, or 2 on each side, to remove. I don't have a good anti-static place to do this, so I'm going to do it on the top of the table. Just be very careful not to touch the pins on the connector on the hard drive while I remove this. I should be able to just lift off the carrier, and there's the hard drive. Now I'll want to get out the new hard drive. This is the Toshiba hybrid drive. Keep it in its anti-static bag till it's time to use it. You want to make sure you avoid touching any of the circuitry that's exposed on it, the circuit board, controller board on the back, or the connector pins, so you don't provide a static shock to it and damage it. We'll put the drive just in the same place as the other one was, so we can set the carrier down right on it the same way. And then we'll just put the screws back into it. Now the new drive is ready to go into the laptop. So now we're ready to put the new laptop hard drive in. The nice thing about this method is we've still got the old drive here in this anti-static bag. In case something goes wrong with this process, the old drive is still available to be able to put back in. So we'll take the hard drive, tip it in there, and carefully wiggle it to get it to engage in the SATA connector. Push it to slide it in, tab, dent a little bit there, push it down. Now it's in there. Put the lid back on, cover. And then 2 screws, and the change is done. Of course, the change isn't complete, because this is just a blank hard drive. And now we'll need to transfer the information, the image files that are on the external hard drive will have to get loaded onto the new hard drive that's in the laptop to complete the process. With the new hard drive installed, we now boot from the Acronis TrueImage CD and restore the entire disk partition setup from the image file we created on the USB hard drive and restore that to the new drive. After installing the image backup from the old hard drive to the new hard drive, I was able to successfully boot the computer. During the boot up process, Windows installed new drivers for that Toshiba hybrid drive. Now, with the old hard drive's image restored onto the new hard drive, I'm using another tool, Acronis Disk Director, to look at the new hard drive and see what it's done. I was anticipating that the new single image file containing all of the partitions I had on my old drive would be put onto this new drive, and I'd have 500 gigabytes of exactly what I had on the old drive and 500 gigabytes of empty space. 1 terabyte drive would be empty space at this point, and I'd have to readjust it using this Acronis Disk Director program. But in fact, apparently what happens with a single image file for the entire drive is the TrueImage program had reallocated that empty space into each of the other partitions that I had. So what it did was enlarge all of the partitions by enough to utilize all that extra space that the new hard drive had. That's not exactly what I'd wanted, because there are some of these partitions that I didn't want to be enlarged, and some I wanted to increase more than others. So I'm going to use Acronis Disk Director to resize the partitions to make them the way I want to. Once that's done, then the laptop will be ready to use. Now we'll test to see how fast the computer boots. Now it boots in 33 seconds. What used to take a minute and a half is now reduced to 33 seconds. That's pretty darn good. Now we'll demonstrate changing the laptop on the Fujitsu LH531 laptop.
I'm going to skip this at that point. We're kind of running short on time. All that illustrates is the second laptop, which is similar, but seeing the one laptop gives you some idea of what the process is. As I said, this is all illustrated on this slide. So once you've gone through and changed your hard drive, now your laptop will feel better about itself. It has more storage space, or faster, or both. And so it will avert that midlife crisis it might have. So I want to thank everyone for their attention, and hope you enjoyed the presentation today. If you've got questions and I can't get to them through the chat, then you can email me at president@uchug.org or through APCUG. Thank you.
Greg, just one question, because we got a minute. What if somebody has a laptop that still has the old IDE connection? Is there some kind of an adapter or something that they can use to hook it up to a new SATA hard drive?
You wouldn't be able to do that in the form factor of the laptop. So I'm going to say no. There might be some type of adapter that you could have an external drive hanging out there, but my feeling is that there probably isn't anything that will allow you to do that and certainly still fit it in the laptop case. I'm afraid you're probably resigned to going to a new laptop if you want to upgrade your hard drive that way. You can obviously have an external USB hard drive if you have USB and add more space, but then you're having an external drive hanging around with it as well.
Okay. We really do appreciate, and I'm already excited about part 3 coming up in a future VTC. I know this is going to help a lot of people extend life to their computers. So thank you so much for that.